Hi everybody, today is February 16th and I'm going to read you my latest blog. So this is called the 4 Tenets of GRE Math Mastery. I think we can all picture it. We're taking a math test, but we didn't study very well. The first few problems go okay, but then we try the next problem and get nowhere. We can't get the one after that either. Crap. Well, I've been there. AP Calc did not go well for me. As a high school student, I didn't have a great perspective on what I needed to do to get better, so I just went home every day after class and tried to teach myself from the textbook with very mixed success. By the end of the class, I was convinced that I wasn't that good at math. However, I've come a long way since then. So, if you're intimidated by the thought of learning math for the GRE, or if you've begun the process and it's not going well, I know how you feel. In this article, I'm going to talk in detail about the process of going from being bad at math to being good at math, quote unquote, based on what I've learned and observed over the past 9 years of working with many GRE students. I divide this process up into 4 areas: concepts, review, methodology, and experience. So let's talk about concepts first. These are things like arithmetic, algebra, geometry, data analysis, fractions, decimals, linear and quadratic equations, the Pythagorean theorem, word problems, probability, and many more. So, to do well at GRE math, you need to be good at the test concepts. First of all, it's helpful to know what the tested concepts actually are. They're covered, among other places, in the ETS Math Review. So you're fluent in English, right? So, well, just like knowing how to read English is a prerequisite for GRE verbal success, being fluent in math concepts is a prerequisite for GRE math success. In fact, it's the foundation for GRE math success. So by fluent, I mean the concept is pretty much automatic for you. You don't have to think about it, it's just there when you need it. So fluency is a lot different than familiarity. So we need to keep working on things that we're merely familiar with. And if you show me someone who is fluent with the math concepts that the GRE tests, I'll bet you that he or she can score 160 plus without ever even opening a GRE prep book. Therefore, concepts are the most important area students need to address. But you don't really have the time to take algebra and geometry over again, even if you wanted to, and you don't want to. So let's think about some practical steps you can take in the next few months or so. So number 1, like I said, know it's going to be tested. As you read through the ETS Math Review, highlight anything you don't straight up know. Step 2, look at all the concepts you've highlighted. This will take a little guesswork, but divide them up into 2 categories: concepts that I once knew and concepts that I never knew. So now that you've classified all the concepts, start with the ones that you did know at some point. These are going to be easier to make progress on, and you can use that momentum and the inevitable crossover of certain concepts to tackle the concepts you never knew. So let me illustrate with something most people at one point knew: percents. Here's a series of steps somebody might take to become fluent at percents. Step 1. Read what the ETS Math Review says about percents and do the practice problems at the end of the arithmetic section of that math review. 2. Use a prep book to refresh the concept. I like CliffsNotes Math Review for standardized tests, personally. The idea here is to practice the concept at kind of a basic conceptual level. 3. Now you're going to use a GRE prep book to practice percent questions written in the same style as the GRE. A good choice is the Manhattan Prep 5-pound GRE prep book. Then finally, practice percent questions on actual ETS questions, the kind that are only found in the official ETS books. Now, if you're working on a concept that you are more shaky on, or if the above isn't going that well, there's a preliminary step you can take. Learn about the concept using Khan Academy, which has loads of free, helpful videos and exercises that will teach you the concept from the ground up in a friendly, down-to-earth, accessible way. Really great site. If you think about it, it's unrealistic to expect a GRE prep book, even a good one, to fully cover any given math concept. Khan Academy, however, will do just that. So I have a warning. When you make the jump from conceptual practice to GRE style practice, like when you go from, say, Khan Academy or CliffsNotes to the Manhattan or the ETS books, the questions can often seem really difficult. You might have to learn the hard way on many problems, and you won't be able to do some of them at all if you're like most people. That's okay. Just do the ones you can and move on from the ones you can't. Maybe come back to the ones you can't later. So one of the reasons you're having trouble in that kind of case is that GRE-style questions often incorporate a reasoning component. In other words, you'll not only have to know the math concepts involved, but you'll have to think. So be patient with yourself as you practice. Some of the lessons you'll need to learn will be learned by making mistakes, just like when you learn most things in life. So hopefully the above process makes sense. The problem is that there are a lot of concepts to get through. And you don't want to just get through them, you want to master them. So practice them until they're second nature and review. So when you're covering lots of concepts, you're going to want to review intelligently. You're only human. You're going to forget certain things unless you periodically reinforce them. My advice for reviewing is that you review things as you're just starting to forget them. This forces the brain to rebuild the memory, thereby making it even stronger than it was the first time. If you review when you still remember something perfectly well, your brain doesn't have to rebuild the memory and the review won't be as effective. If you wait until the memory has completely faded, you're kind of back to square one. So to be efficient, keep track of what day you've studied each concept. So a typical review schedule for a concept might look something like this. Day 1, study percents. Day 2, review percents. Day 4, review percents again. Day 8, review percents again. Day 16, review percents again. So notice that the time between review sessions keeps doubling. Since you're learning the concept more and more each time, it'll take longer for the memory to fade each time. So doubling the amount of time between review sessions is a handy way to anticipate this. Again, you want to get to the point where you think you absolutely know a concept, which is a different feeling than just having memorized it. Of course, when you review, it's not enough to look over a chapter or the work you did. You're going to need to be doing new problems too. On to methodology. So now let's say you're about a month into your GRE math studies. You're starting to make some progress with concepts. You're getting into the Manhattan 5-pound book to practice, as well as the ETS books. So let's talk a little bit about the way that you're doing problems. So a fun fact about many GRE math problems is that they can be solved in more than one way. And sometimes one of the ways is quite a bit faster. So here are a few ideas to improve your problem-solving ability. 1. Check out my free GRE technique videos. They are designed to give you more ideas about different ways to do certain types of problems. 2. Revisit the ETS math questions you've already done. Can you solve the problem in a different way? If you can, go ahead and do it. It's going to add another tool to your toolbox. 3. Make a note of which way of solving the problem was easier for you. And then 4, write down what you'll try next time you see a problem similar to this one in your GRE journal. What, you don't have a GRE journal? In essence, you want to learn methods, identify problems on which they can be applied, and practice them until the techniques become fluid and you can readily identify the kinds of problems that the techniques work on. Then finally, let's talk about experience. One of the reasons that I've become so good at GRE math is that I've not only taken the GRE several times, but I've done every single official GRE math question in the books. On top of that, I've tutored the SAT, ACT, GMAT, ISEE, and other tests for years, tests that cover most of the same math concepts as does the GRE. So I've seen lots and lots of ways test writers try to test these concepts, and I've learned a lot from my many mistakes. So you need experience too. At a minimum, you want to use the Manhattan 5-pound book as well as the official ETS books. Definitely attempt all the ETS questions and do as many Manhattan questions as are feasible for your time frame. The more questions you've successfully done, the more likely it is that a weird-looking question on the real GRE will actually remind you of something you've done before, and you'll figure it out. Now, if you're really hardcore, you can get more experience from old SAT tests, pre-2016. Guess who wrote them? ETS. So not all GRE concepts were tested on the old SAT, but almost all of them were. Official GMAT math questions are good practice too, because the overlap of the concepts is almost complete. So a final note, I only wish the process of becoming skilled at GRE math was easy. For most of you, it won't be. You have to study consistently and earn your GRE math proficiency. If you wanted to become fluent in a language, how many days a week would you practice it? 1, 2? The answer probably has to be more like 5 or 6. And of course, you'll need to take timed practice tests to test your skills with the clock ticking. But as time goes on and you practice more and more, I think, like many of my students, you'll start to feel more confident, which will help fuel your success.